Sound good? Okay, Gary B, this one is for you. This is a fun one because I got my wife on the cans. Cans is an industry term for headphones. She's got great cans. Beat Studio, right? First and foremost, I'm sorry for fucking up the audio last time. I didn't realize how hot it was when I was recording it. And obviously I'm too lazy to go back and redo it, so deal with it. So this is super exciting for me because this is my first viewer request. Gary B, I'm super pumped that you watched and enjoyed the video, and I'm even more pumped to deliver. So here we go, this one's for you. Oh, it goes so much smoother than Jameson. So Gary requested that I review Double Down, another Neil Breen film, and I do want to make a point that I'm not out with a vendetta against Uncle Neil, and I'm not all about picking the lowest hanging fruit. Again, this is a viewer video, so here we go. My second review was going to be The Christmas Consultant, and by the time I thought about filming it, Christmas had already passed, so we're going on with Neil Breen. So let's start by giving credit where credit is due. This movie came out in 2005, whereas Fateful Findings, the subject of my first review, came out in 2013. To illustrate my point, this is a picture of me in 2005 and again in 2013. This is a picture of Neil Breen in 2005 and again in 2013. So credit where credit is due. I'm gonna read 2 Amazon reviews for this movie because I think if I read one now and one at the end of the movie, it'll put this all into perspective for us. This is by Anthony on Amazon. A real American badass tearing it up. A hacker, hitman, spy doing what needs to be done. It doesn't get much better than this. Just like Fateful Findings, Double Down starts off with some impressively filmed shots, but the IMAX effect immediately wears off when we come down to Uncle Neil hiding in a rock vagina. And I'll save you the headache and screen time. The next 20 minutes is a VO'd montage of him living off the grid somewhere in the Nevada desert, cut together with stock footage of satellites and military operations. It must have taken him one shoot day to follow him around the Nevada desert with all this throwaway technology, but where he got and licensed the stock footage from was really what intrigued me. It's like he was channeling Ed Wood in this movie. So he begins to explain that he's a computer genius mercenary spy who's feared by governments around the world, but he actually works for the US, except he doesn't actually. He's working with another government, which isn't the US, but somehow it actually is, but who gives a fuck? Neil Breen wrote this. The part I do want to show you guys is where he talks about his diet. He says he lives in his car and eats canned tuna fish for every meal. So here he is having one of his meals, but Jesus Christ, he's spilling it all over the place. You do this at least 3 times a day, and now you gotta do it this bad, and you're gonna go to a close-up of it. I have a brother-in-law who eats standing up. It's just how he likes to eat. He does it every meal and he's good at it. I've tried it a couple times and I can't do it. I spill my food everywhere and it's a mess, kind of like this. But I need to sit down, have my throat aligned with my stomach. That's how I gotta eat. But if you eat every meal standing up like my brother-in-law does, you get good at it. But if you eat every meal as cat food in the car and you're spilling it all over the place, I don't know what to say for you. And then we gotta talk about the spoiler that he gives 10 minutes into the movie. He says that the government became so fearful of him that they killed his fiancée. He shows his plot point later on, which would soften the blow for even a good movie. But if the government was so fearful of him, why not just kill him instead? Oh, and I forgot to mention, he also has a secret Harry Potter invisibility cloak made from lasers that he developed to kill people that are hunting him down.
The force shield will cause death if an intruder gets too close.
I know, right? Throughout the first waste of a half an hour of this movie, he talks about the dishonesty of corporations like he did in the last movie, the senselessness of war, and you think maybe he's onto some sort of lucid thought until he throws in this.
Where are you? Where am I? You're me.
So if I'm following the plot correctly, Uncle Neil is conflicted because his order is to shut down the Las Vegas Strip for 2 months.
But I am yet to attain omnipresent supergalactic oneness.
The first step of his plan to shut down the Las Vegas Strip is to test the bioweapon he has in a pond before he uses it on the people of Las Vegas. And this just kills a bunch of fish. Did I mention that he's a master developer of biological weapons? Because I think I left that part out. Here's a question I have about this shot. How did he get it? Did he purchase B-roll by searching for dead fish on the shore, or did he roll up to the supermarket, purchase 20 pounds of bass, and just throw them in the water. I mean, with all the questions raised by the plot at this point, this is what's plaguing my mind. Nothing important here. This is where he hides his porn stash. 20 minutes into the movie, and we get to the part where he proposes to his girlfriend, and they're just naked in the hot tub, and she's rocking this bizarre cross between a G-string and granny panties I never thought was possible. But none of this matters, because you already knew what was gonna happen anyway.
Jeez.
Jesus Christ!
You ready for why this movie's called Double Down? Because it's right here. Do you see that? Do you know what that is?
That's a penis.
No, that's a Neil Breenus. So once again, he doesn't call for help. He just rubs the blood all over his face and lets her float face down in the hot tub. Possibly conscious? I mean, it's not clear that she's dead. I don't know. It would seem that if you're in the mercenary line of work, you would know that people can get shot and still survive.
Las Vegas, where anything goes. Enjoy it while you can. I'm about to end it all.
Now, finally, 25 minutes into the movie, we actually step into the plot.
I just arrived in town an hour ago. It's nice to be here working with the agency in another assignment. Although I can't be too careful. I'm not going in your office buildings. I know they're all bugged. Not to mention the skeletons that are in there.
The next few minutes of dialogue indicate that there's another bioterrorist in Las Vegas planning something way worse than 9/11. And yes, that is the actual line in the movie.
9/11 times 100. Jesus, that's...
Yes, 91,100.
So some more bullshit musings from Uncle Neil about corporations and government and war and nukes and bioweapons. So after the editor rolls in some B-roll from Las Vegas travel ads, we're back in the Nevada desert. So in his travels as a cave-dwelling, rocket spy bio-mercenary, he comes across a dying hobo. He's like, OMG, I feel this guy's energy. This guy couldn't possibly be a terrorist. I should help him die. And as he dies, he gives him a piece of fool's gold, you know, the kind that you get on like first grade field trips. So he puts it in his pocket and writes, it's a magical, oh wait, no, I'm sorry, that's wrong movie. He just buries great grandpa Neil and rolls in some more inane B-roll after that.
Where are you? Where are you? Where are you?
Mom, is there life after death? Dad, is there a heaven?
I have to admit, at this point in the movie, the thought did cross my mind. Is there a subliminal possibility that Neil Breen knows what he's doing, is able to execute his exact intentions and create transcendent art that we as an audience struggle to understand? And no, I'm not being sarcastic. That thought did stick with me for a moment, but thankfully it was a fleeting thought and gone as soon as they cut to the next scene. We go to a quick dinner scene at some rando's house, and there are two things I want to point out in this scene, and the first is that this line was actually spoken in the movie.
You know, the public perception of what we do for a living really constantly amazes me. They think all that we do is drive around and get caught up in spectacular car chases and huge buildings blowing up and wild gunfire and so on. That only happens in the movies and in TV. It really doesn't happen in real life. In real life, everything we do is done very silently, undercover, and electronically. The public never knows what we're doing.
Yeah, neither does the audience. And then part two of this scene.
Our daughter Megan was just diagnosed with brain cancer.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
His reaction to this reminds me of something, but I just can't quite put my finger on it.
I definitely have breast cancer.
Good thing he has that fool's gold to cure her inoperable brain tumor with.
No, thank you.
He really is the best uncle ever. So he goes back to the desert and he tells his dead girlfriend that he cured this girl of cancer with his magic pebble. And he wants to bring, yes, this happens. And he wants to bring her back with his new magical power, but she's all tired of Netflix and chill and tells him to fuck off. So he's like, all right, I'll just go fix my reception and we can dish network and chill from now on. And I'm not gonna comment on him keeping his dead lady friend in a bag by his campsite, so I'll leave the comment section open for you guys to do that. A whole lot of nothing happens in the following scenes. Some dickhead in camo pants spills a brick of anthrax, but everyone's okay, so it doesn't matter. Rolling some more travel footage of the strip, and then we go to a strip mall parking lot where he meets up with some suits before the stealthiest agent on planet fucking Earth bugs his car.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay, no damage.
So they hire him to kill someone, but don't explain why. So then Uncle Neil sets out to do it. He takes the bug off first and goes to some Las Vegas quickie chapel to go about the hit. At this point in the movie, I realized that this is a lot like watching a friend play Grand Theft Auto, but instead of sticking to the plot of the game and completing the missions, they steal a cab and they just won't stop picking up fares. I mean, that's cool if you're into Crazy Taxi, but Neil, that's not what we signed up for as an audience. Anyway, he picks up the targets from the wedding chapel, and the newlyweds could not be any happier.
I can't believe we did this. I've only known you for 2 days.
I can't believe this. I need a drink.
Reminds me of my wedding a couple of months ago. I don't know how we got here. We've only known each other for 2 years. Why are we getting married?
Oh my God, this is terrible. I can't believe that I did this. My mom is gonna kill me.
Who are all these people?
I'm never coming to Vegas again.
I shouldn't have done all those bath salts.
Okay, let's just have dinner.
Okay. And apart from not actually driving the car, Uncle Neil does manage to pull off the hit with some poisoned strawberries.
Magic pebble. Poisoned strawberries.
Exactly, got magic pebbles and poisoned strawberries. Like, this movie's got it all.
What do you mean I picked up the wrong couple? Shit.
Classic Neil. Seriously though, who cares? This side mission has nothing to do with the plot of this movie. We're just kind of along for the ride. But instead of getting to the plot, we're gonna go on another side mission. After, of course, he randomly anthraxes some guy on the Vegas Strip.
Oh, excuse me.
So now he's all, man, this mission I was never briefed on is super important. I better call in Caitlyn Jenner.
How's business?
Very hot. There's a different convention in town every few days. And those out-of-state conventioneers know how to party. They keep us girls very busy.
I've got a job I want you to help me with. I'll pay you $100.
Only $100? Come on, baby.
It's a setup. No sex.
Sure, but I want to see you afterward.
So, I don't know, he meets this guy with a fake goatee at some parking lot. Uncle Neil uses Caitlyn as a distraction to sedate the guy with the magic shot mustache. And then Caitlyn gets in her car and pulls off. Sadly, after that, Caitlyn gets caught and killed, and Uncle Neil never gets his ZJ.
What's a ZJ?
If you have to ask, big man, you can't afford it.
From there, we go to something that I think could possibly be plot related. I mean, Uncle Neil says that he's a double agent pretending to help the US government as they go to meet these anthrax dealers or something. I don't know, they just point guns at each other and they have some weird powwow with a brick of anthrax. I guess it's a bioweapon deal gone wrong.
It broke open. Run!
But of course, there's a perfectly good explanation from Uncle Neil.
I meant to do that.
Let me just say, you hear gunfire, but there's no kill shot or getaway. Uncle Neil just tells the US agents to take credit for the bust. But take credit for what? He exposed Nevada to anthrax and let 2 bioterrorists get away. Anyway, Uncle Neil leaves, and no amount of analysis could possibly do this clip justice, so I'm just gonna play it for you.
Where does he go?
He's on a quest. Don't ask, he's protected. From the very top, extremely top secret. Last month, we tried to use a drone aircraft to track him. He picked it up with his laptop, took control of it, crashed into the ground way before it even reached him. Millions up in smoke. He's done that many times before. So the orders up from the top is not to track him or follow him anymore. He's too smart for us. Magician.
Yep, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the hardest mercenary on US soil.
I need to believe something extraordinary is possible.
Yeah, this guy will go on and produce more movies. Anyway, now we're at this train yard intercut with B-roll of like major cities worldwide. One time when I was in college, I read the story booklet to the Mars Volta's album D-Louse in the Comatorium. I mean, like the whole thing. And that feeling of what the fuck is going on, honestly, came back to me in that moment. If any of you have read the storybook to D-Louse, you'll know what I'm talking about. So now things are getting serious, and I can tell that because Uncle Neil gets all Canadian Rambo on us. And I think he's getting ready for his bio attack on the Las Vegas Strip. But of course, as we know, he's super conflicted about the whole thing.
I can't go on with this. I can't go on with this. I'm an American. I'm an American. I love this country. It's my country.
You're damn your part, America!
So he finds out that his hobo chemo doesn't work and the little girl died, go figure. Which I mean is horrible, but it's not at all relevant to the limited plot we've been given in the last hour and 15 minutes that we sat through. So then he cuts his arm. I don't know if he's gonna have like a Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator moment where he pulls out like a metal arm or what, but then a whole lot more nothing happens. He steps in gum, but the gum is bugged or something, so he takes the bug off again. Oh yeah, then he goes full on Peter Griffin. This has all been Breen's attempt at conveying to us, the audience, his character's preparation for his attack on Vegas. Then some old people are just talking about how safe Las Vegas is in one of the best examples of foreshadowing in modern cinema.
You have nothing to worry about. More precautions than ever have been taken to keep Las Vegas a safe place to visit and have a great time.
Meanwhile, Uncle Neil says that the diversions have begun, so he's apparently mobilizing a worldwide biostrike. Mind you, for no discernible reason at all. And the use of stock footage in this attack scene is just, well, it's just first class. And just for the sake of making a point, yeah, Tommy Wiseau did slow the pace of the room down to a screeching halt with a lot of pointless shots, but for fuck's sake, he was in the shots. Can you imagine what that trunk smells like? That's 2 months worth of rotting tuna fish in the trunk of that car, just baking in the Nevada sun. And do you think he cleaned that up after he filmed this scene? So for no discernible reason at all, he just calls off the attack on Vegas. I mean, he's already ruined the entire rest of the world, but God forbid Vegas feel the wrath of the low-hanging Breenus.
This event will force us to totally restructure our intelligence system.
So even though the attack was called off, the senator and like the rest of the retirement home residents decide to go to DEFCON 5. The one upside is that they all agree on an appropriate emergency response.
Prepare to evacuate the hotels on the Strip.
Prepare to evacuate the hotels on the Las Vegas Strip.
Prepare to evacuate the hotels on the Strip.
Prepare to evacuate the hotel.
After that, he calls on his magic pebble for help escaping capture. Yes, the same one that didn't cure the little girl of brain cancer, but he's sure that this time things will turn around and work in his favor. Anyway, he has some visions of his dead girlfriend and his childhood self, which thanks to some seamless editing we learn are just mirages and that the pebble didn't do shit once again. So he smashes his laptop, and I mean, it doesn't really matter. He has like 13 more scattered around the desert. I just like watching this part. Oh, he's sad now. But that's really the end of the movie, though. He's just ruined the entire world, and now he's sad. In the credits this time, they were fairly normal. A few people in the cast had the same name. There were 4 characters billed as agent, 3 billed as terrorist, 2 brides, 2 grooms, girl with a camera, and a partridge in a pear tree. From a story perspective, I stand by what I said about GTA. But when you compare it to Fateful Findings, he did make an attempt to stay closer to the plot. For this movie to be worse than Fateful Findings, a movie he made 8 years after this one, he would literally have to sit in the car for the first hour and 15 minutes of the movie, eat canned tuna fish, and then just come out, and then we see DEFCON 5, and that's it. And that will bring me to Amazon review number 2, and this one is by David. David says, Neil Breen's Double Down is truly a movie that leaves more questions unanswered than answers given. The story of Aaron Brand, a rogue agent who can control the National Geospatial Agency satellites, DD excels at the disposition of exposition above all. There are moments of true terror and mourning, such as when Brand's lady is shot by a sniper in a public pool, only her nude-colored G-string to protect her modesty. Brand's anguish is palpable. In a moment both surreal and telling, he aspires to oblivion, floating face down in mirror image to his slain fiancée. A double assassination of 2 newlywed couples later in the film seems to point towards a larger theme. This world Breen has created is one without nations or social order, in which the bonds of matrimony, like any other contract, cannot be trusted. Paranoia and confusion drive Brand to seek the solace of dreams, where he meets his slain love, his childhood self, and an old man with the gift of fool's gold. Or is it? The trickster mineral seems to be the only thing that Brand can rely on, giving him the power to carry on with a love that still lives in his heart. Also, it gives him the power to cure brain cancer, he thinks. This is a film which must be experienced by anyone who cares about life. On the surface, it may seem to be a conspiracy thriller, but the real conspiracy is love. So I've sat through this movie twice for the sake of doing this review, and I'll say the same thing I did last time. I'm not gonna watch this again unless it's a drinking game. And if you really want to kill yourself, just drink every time he uses the same music cut, because I think he had 2 playing throughout the entire movie. Gary, again, thank you so much for checking out Clearance Bin Cinema. I hope you enjoy this review. Obviously open to more viewer requests, just no more Neil Breen in the future.